My friends, tonight I want to reveal to you a sacred key that lies not in the noise of the world, but in the quiet chamber of your own mind. Each evening, before you surrender to sleep, you stand at the threshold of creation. In that drowsy state, where thoughts blur and the senses grow faint, you hold the power to command the universe itself. This is not asking in desperation, nor is it pleading with some force outside of you. It is the art of assuming, the sacred practice of impressing upon your mind the world you wish to live in. The universe does not respond to words. It responds to states. It answers not to your begging, but to your inner acceptance. If before sleep you see yourself lacking, struggling, or unworthy, then that impression takes root and blossoms in your days to come. But if you dare to feel the richness of your desire, as though it were already yours, if you let your body rest in the sweetness of accomplishment, then the unseen powers move in harmony with your assumption and unfold it into your waking life. Tonight, when you lie down, close your eyes and turn away from the world. Let all the concerns of the day fade like mist. Choose one desire, not many, and make it vivid within you. Do not think of it as coming. Think from it as already here. If it is love you seek, feel the warmth of companionship beside you. If it is abundance, feel the security and joy of already possessing it. If it is health, feel the ease of a strong and radiant body. The scene you imagine need not be long or complex. A single short act, repeated with feeling, is enough to carry you into the state of the wish fulfilled. Do not force it, but let it be real. Enter into it until you can touch it in your imagination, until it feels more solid than the bed beneath you. And when drowsiness comes, let sleep overtake you while still holding this feeling. For the state you carry into sleep is the state impressed upon the subconscious, and the subconscious is the womb of creation. You ask the universe not with words, but with assumption. You ask not as a beggar, but as a creator who knows that what is held in imagination must one day be seen in reality. Your every night is a rehearsal for tomorrow. Therefore, guard your last thought, for it is the seed from which your life grows. Fall asleep in gratitude, not for what will come, but for what is already true in the unseen. Gratitude seals the desire as complete, as received, as certain. When you practice this nightly, the universe bends to the command of your inner world. You do not chase your desires, they flow to you, drawn by the magnetism of your assumption. Imagination is the gateway to creation, for nothing you experience in your waking life arrives without first existing in the unseen dimension of mind. The last thoughts before sleep are not idle wanderings. They are seeds pressed deep into the fertile soil of the subconscious, where every impression is nurtured and multiplied. The mind in that drowsy borderland between wakefulness and sleep becomes soft, receptive, open to suggestion, and in that openness lies your greatest creative power. The images, feelings, and assumptions you carry into sleep are not forgotten. They are recorded with precision by the deeper self that never slumbers, and from those recordings tomorrow takes its shape. Consider how a seed behaves in nature. A farmer does not plant a seed and expect it to sprout instantly. Yet he knows with certainty that what he plants, he shall also reap. The subconscious works in the same way. When you drift into sleep holding in imagination the picture of yourself as you wish to be, you are planting a seed. That seed will not bear fruit immediately in the external world, but it begins at once to take root in the unseen, and in time it pushes through the soil of appearances to show itself as fact. Yet if you carry into sleep thoughts of lack, failure, or doubt, you are planting weeds that must also spring forth. The soil makes no judgment. It simply brings forth what has been sown. In the quiet of night, the conscious mind loses its grip. Its arguments and distractions fade, and the subconscious stands unguarded. That is why the state between waking and sleeping is so precious, for it is here you can bypass the resistance of logic and impress directly upon the deeper mind. The universe is not moved by empty words, but by felt reality. To imagine with feeling is to speak the language of creation. You may repeat affirmations all day long, but if in the silence of the night you feel fear or doubt, the feeling will outweigh the words. Feeling is the secret force that charges the image with life. Every great invention, every work of art, every triumph of human spirit began as a picture in the imagination. What you now call reality is nothing more than crystallized imagination, hardened into the form of circumstances. Buildings, books, nations, even relationships were first conceived in the invisible realm of thought. When you begin to treat imagination not as fantasy, but as the workshop of reality, you claim your role as the creator of your own world. The world is not a dictator. It is a mirror reflecting what you have entertained within. When you prepare for sleep, let your mind become the stage upon which the play of your desire unfolds. Do not imagine it as something to come, but as something already lived. See yourself already in possession of the thing you seek. If it is wealth, picture yourself enjoying the freedom and ease it brings. If it is love, feel the warmth of connection and companionship. If it is health, sense the vitality coursing through your body. Do not strain or force, but gently assume the reality of the scene. Repeat it until it feels natural, until the imagined state feels more solid than the world outside. Sleep then becomes not a retreat from life, but the sacred passage where you meet the creative source within. The body rests, but the subconscious continues its work, drawing people, circumstances, and opportunities into alignment with the assumption you carried into slumber. Many awaken in the morning believing nothing has changed, but life has already been set in motion. Invisible threads are weaving together, and soon what was held in imagination steps into visibility. It is important to understand that imagination is not secondary to reality. It is the cause of reality. The outer world is always the effect, never the cause. To focus only on what appears in front of you is to live as a prisoner of circumstances. But to focus inwardly, to deliberately plant the seeds of your desire through imagination, is to live as a master. What you see today is the harvest of yesterday's imaginal acts. What you will see tomorrow depends entirely on what you imagine tonight. Therefore, treat your last thoughts before sleep with reverence. They are not fleeting images, but living seeds. If you carry bitterness, resentment, or fear into the night, you will water them with the dew of sleep and see their likeness in your waking life. But if you choose to carry joy, gratitude, and fulfilled desire, then those seeds too will grow. The universe does not discriminate. It faithfully returns to you the harvest of your imagination. Practice this mantra, and you will come to know the creative power within you. Each evening, let go of the day's burden. Release all attachment to appearances, and turn inward to the truth you wish to embody. Enter that truth in imagination, and fall asleep as if it were already accomplished. Over time, this practice becomes natural, and the boundary between imagination and reality dissolves. You will begin to see that the world is pliable, that circumstances rearrange themselves according to the inner patterns impressed upon the mind. To imagine before sleep is to converse directly with the infinite. It is to send forth a command, clothed not in words, but in state of being. The subconscious hears only what you are, not what you say. Therefore, be what you desire in imagination, and let sleep carry you into union with it. Night after night, seed after seed, your garden of reality will transform, until you look around and recognize in the outer world the reflection of what you once imagined in secret. The feeling of the wish fulfilled is the true key to manifesting the life you desire, for creation does not respond to desperation or pleading, but to the quiet certainty of already being. When you beg or ask, you affirm separation between yourself and the thing you want. You declare through your state of mind that it is absent, that you are incomplete without it, and the universe mirrors that assumption back to you. But when you live inwardly, as though the desire is already realized, when you feel the satisfaction, the joy, the relief, and the wholeness of possession, then you move into alignment with the unseen law that governs manifestation. For the inner state is always the cause, and the outer world always the effect. This practice is not about forcing or pretending in a shallow way, but about surrendering deeply to the truth of your imagination, about allowing yourself to embody, in feeling what your senses cannot yet confirm. The wish fulfilled is not a distant hope, but a present reality in consciousness. And when you occupy it fully, the subconscious accepts it as fact. What is accepted within must then be expressed without, for the subconscious, once impressed, is compelled to objectify its contents in the world of form. To live from the wish fulfilled requires a shift in identity. It is not merely saying, I want wealth, but becoming the one who is wealthy in thought and feeling. It is not wishing for love, but resting in the warmth of already being loved. It is not hoping for help, but sinking into the ease and freedom of an already radiant body. In this state, you do not ask when it will happen. You do not wonder how it will come. For you have already arrived in the inner sense of completion. To question its arrival would be as absurd as asking whether you are currently breathing. The state itself is the evidence. When you close your eyes and imagine, let the inner scene carry you into the tones of reality. Do not observe yourself from a distance as though you were watching a play, but enter the scene and experience it firsthand. Feel the emotions that would naturally accompany your fulfilled desire. If it is wealth, allow yourself to feel the relief of bills already paid, the freedom of choosing without restriction, the quiet dignity of security. If it is love, allow the sensation of companionship, the touch of another's hand, the laughter shared in ordinary moments. If it is health, feel the lightness of movement, the breath flowing easily, the strength coursing through your veins. These feelings are not make believe, they are the creative essence that molds reality. The outer world does not change first, your inner state changes, and the world follows. Many make the mistake of waiting for circumstances to shift before they allow themselves to feel as though their wish were fulfilled. They postpone joy, gratitude, and relief until some external sign appears. But in doing so, they lock themselves in a cycle of waiting, for the external can only reflect what is within. To reverse this order is to unlock creation. You feel first, you assume first, and then the world arranges itself in harmony with that assumption. This principle explains why those who live inconstant worry often find more reasons to worry, and why those who cultivate gratitude attract more blessings. The subconscious does not evaluate whether a state is desirable or undesirable. It simply receives and reproduces. When you feel the joy of the fulfilled wish, you are programming the subconscious with a blueprint of completion, and that blueprint must find its expression. The universe bends to the inner conviction of already having. The practice of living from the wish fulfilled requires persistence, for the outer world may for a time show you its old reflection. In those moments, you must refuse to be deceived by appearances and return again and again to the inner reality. Just as a seed takes time to push through the soil, so too the imaginal act requires gestation. Doubt, impatience, and worry are like digging up the seed to see if it is growing. But calm persistence allows it to unfold naturally. The one who feels from the wish fulfilled does not concern himself with evidence, for he knows the inner state is already the guarantee of the outer result. As you fall asleep, let the last sensation you carry be that of the wish already realized. Do not imagine yourself desiring, imagine yourself enjoying. The subconscious, most receptive at the edge of sleep, will take that feeling and work upon it throughout the night. Each morning, reaffirm the state by briefly touching the joy of completion before stepping into the day. This is not a mechanical ritual, but a living practice of inhabiting your chosen reality. Over time, you will discover that circumstances shift in ways you could not have planned, that opportunities appear, that people move into your life as if drawn by an unseen hand. This is the natural consequence of living inwardly, as though it were already true. The world responds faithfully to the inner assumption, for creation is finished and all realities exist. The one you experience is the one you have chosen through feeling. To feel the wish fulfilled is to select your destiny, to step into the timeline where your desire is already fact. When you master this art, you will see that life is not something happening to you, but something happening through you, that the outer is but a shadow of the inner, and that every fulfilled desire began the moment you dared to live in its reality within. The state you enter at night creates your tomorrow, for the mind in those quiet hours before sleep is the pen that writes the script of your life. As you drift from wakefulness into slumber, the conscious mind grows passive, and the subconscious, vast and impressionable, takes command. It does not reason, it does not argue. It does not question whether your thoughts are true or false. It simply accepts what is given to it and sets into motion the chain of events that will bring it into form. The final images, feelings, and assumptions you carry with you across the threshold of sleep are seeds sown in the deepest soil of the self, and by the law of their nature they must grow into the experiences you call tomorrow. Most people close their eyes at night with worry, replaying the difficulties of the day, dwelling on lack, on conflict, on regret, on fear of what is to come. They do not realize that in doing so they are rehearsing tomorrow's troubles in advance, that the subconscious will magnify and externalize these impressions with absolute fidelity. The mind does not know the difference between imagination and fact. It knows only the state impressed upon it. When the final inner movie before sleep is one of defeat, then the stage of life is prepared to present another act of defeat. But when the inner movie is one of triumph, joy, and fulfillment, the script for the next day is already written with lines of harmony and success. The drowsy state between waking and sleeping is a sacred passage, for here the walls of reason crumble and imagination flows unimpeded. The conscious guard that normally filters ideas relaxes, and the subconscious stands open to receive. Whatever is vividly felt in this twilight state sinks deep, and from it tomorrow arises. If you imagine yourself as you wish to be, already possessing the things your heart desires. And if you feel the truth of that state as natural, then you have impressed the seed of that reality upon your subconscious. It begins at once to weave circumstances, to draw people, to arrange opportunities, until the outer world mirrors the inner conviction. It is not enough to recite words like a chant, while feeling the opposite within. The subconscious responds not to empty language, but to the mood, the atmosphere, the tone of reality carried in imagination. If you imagine wealth but feel poor, the feeling prevails. If you imagine love but feel alone, the feeling governs. Therefore, the task each night is to construct the final scene in such a way that the feeling of fulfillment arises naturally. See yourself already living the reality desired. Feel the satisfaction as though it were fact. Allow the body to rest in the comfort of having arrived. This nightly practice is not a game of make believe, but the deliberate assumption of the creative role you have always possessed. Life does not come at random. It flows from the states you consistently occupy. Each day is the harvest of yesterday's thoughts, and each tomorrow is planted in the soil of tonight's imagination. When you understand this, you begin to treat your pre-sleep state with reverence as the most important appointment of your day. You no longer surrender to the noise of worry or idle chatter of the mind, but consciously choose the mood in which you will fall asleep. Suppose you desire health. As you lie down at night, do not think of healing as something far off in time. Instead, picture yourself moving freely, feeling strength in your body, breathing with ease. Allow the sensation of vitality to fill you until it becomes real in imagination. Suppose you desire abundance. Do not fall asleep thinking of bills or lack. Instead, imagine yourself living with freedom, seeing the world through the eyes of one who is secure, satisfied, and at ease. Suppose you desire love. Do not dwell on loneliness, but enter the feeling of companionship, the joy of sharing life, the nearness of another's presence. Whatever you would like to see tomorrow, let it be the closing act of your inner play tonight. The subconscious never rests. While your body sleeps, it continues to work ceaselessly, drawing into your orbit the very things that match your inner state. If you fall asleep in lack, it weaves more lack. If you fall asleep in fulfillment, it orchestrates fulfillment. What you awake to in the outer world is simply the echo of what you fell asleep in the night before. This is why ancient wisdom calls sleep the twin of death, for in it one state is laid to rest and another is born. To master your nights is to master your tomorrows. There is no need to complicate the process. A single short imaginal scene, felt with intensity and allowed to saturate the mind before sleep, is enough to plant the seed. Do not scatter your energy on many desires at once, but focus on one scene that implies the fulfillment of your wish. Repeat it until it feels natural, until you can drift into sleep, carrying that mood effortlessly. The subconscious does not need endless variety. It needs clarity, persistence, and feeling. When practiced with patience, this nightly ritual transforms life from the inside out. You will find that circumstances shift. People respond differently. Opportunities arise without your effort, and doors open where once there were only walls. These are not coincidences, but the natural unfolding of the state you carried into sleep. Each morning you awaken to a stage already set, a script already written by the imaginal act of the night before. To understand this is to reclaim your authorship. No longer are you at the mercy of chance or fate, for you realize that tomorrow is not created in the bustle of the day, but in the silence of the night. The state you occupy as you surrender to sleep is the architect of your destiny. Choose it wisely, nurture it carefully, and you will find that life becomes a faithful servant of your inner vision, detached from the outer world. For what you see with your eyes is nothing more than the echo of past thoughts, the crystallized shadow of imagination that has already passed through the mind. Appearances may seem solid, but they are temporary, fleeting, and powerless in themselves. To give them authority is to chain yourself to effects while forgetting the cause. The true power lies not in the outer scene, but in the inner assumption. For it is assumption that precedes creation, assumption that molds reality, assumption that draws into being the circumstances you later call fate. Most people live as prisoners of appearances. They measure their worth by what the world reflects at this moment. They rise or fall with the evidence of their senses, and in doing so they reinforce the very conditions they wish to escape. To stare at lack while desiring abundance is to water the seed of lack. To dwell on loneliness while yearning for love is to feed the root of separation. To rehearse illness in thought while longing for health is to etch the pattern of illness deeper into the subconscious. The outer world may present you with lack, with rejection, with limitation, but if you give no attention to it, if you hold instead to the inner knowing of fulfillment, the outer must yield, for it has no life of its own. Detachment from appearances is not denial of what is there, but refusal to accept it as final. It is the recognition that circumstances are but reflections of former states, that what you see is yesterday's imagination clothed in form. You cannot change what has already been projected, but you can choose the new assumption that will determine tomorrow's scene. To argue with appearances is futile, but to turn inward and assume the state desired is mastery. When you shift within, the outer world rearranges itself to mirror the new inner conviction. This is why it is said that faith is the evidence of things unseen. To detach from appearances is to live by inner vision rather than outer sight, to walk in the certainty of your assumption, even when the world contradicts it. Faith does not wait for confirmation. It provides its own confirmation by feeling the reality inwardly. The one who dares to assume abundance in the midst of lack, who dares to feel loved in the face of rejection, who dares to embody health, while the body protests otherwise, is the one who commands life to conform. Imagine a sculptor facing a block of stone. The outer form does not yet resemble the vision in his mind, but he does not despair at the unshaped rock. He knows the statue exists within, awaiting only his persistent hand. In the same way, appearances may look rough, unformed, even hostile, but within the unseen, the perfect form of your desire already exists. Your task is not to measure the stone, but to hold fast to the inner vision, to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled until the chisel of persistence shapes reality around it. Detachment requires discipline, for the senses are persuasive. They shout their evidence. They insist that what you see is all there is. But when you understand that appearances are delayed reflections, you learn to disregard them as you would the fading echo of a voice once spoken. The true voice is imagination, and when you assume the state desired and hold to it with quiet confidence, the echo must eventually align. To detach is to choose silence over argument, faith over doubt, creation over reaction. This detachment does not make you cold or indifferent to life. Rather, it gives you freedom. No longer are you tossed by the waves of circumstance, for you know they are powerless shadows. You become anchored in the unseen, resting in the inner conviction of already being. From this position, you can meet the world with calm, for you are not seeking validation from it. You are shaping it from within. To practice detachment, begin by observing your reactions to appearances. When lack presents itself, notice the impulse to worry, but instead of feeding it, turn inward and assume the state of abundance. When loneliness arises, resist the urge to cling to the outer world for proof, and instead dwell in the joy of already being loved. When illness or weakness appears, acknowledge it as a passing shadow, but persist in the assumption of health and vitality. Each time you choose inner assumption over outer appearance, you weaken the power of the shadow and strengthen the creative force within. Persist long enough, and you will see the outer world bend to match the inner state. Circumstances, people, opportunities, all will shift. Not because you chased them or fought appearances, but because assumption reshaped the unseen pattern from which the visible is born. This is the law of life, that the inner always precedes the outer, that imagination always outpaces sight, and that assumption alone carries the power. Detach, therefore, from the fleeting images of the senses. They are not the masters of your fate, but the servants of your state. Ignore appearances, not by resisting them, but by refusing to make them your authority. Only the inner assumption is real, for it is the seed from which life grows. And when you hold to it faithfully, the outer must conform. Persistence in assumption is the golden thread that carries imagination into reality, for it is not the fleeting thought nor the momentary vision that reshapes life, but the sustained return to the chosen state until it becomes the very atmosphere of your being. To assume once and then abandon it at the first sign of contradiction is to plant a seed and dig it up in impatience. But to persist, to water it daily with feeling, to return to it again and again until it feels natural, is to guarantee its manifestation. The subconscious accepts only what is impressed with consistency, and consistency is born of persistence. The mind is a creature of habit, and habit is formed by repetition. When you occupy a state repeatedly, when you imagine the same end, and feel it as though it were already true, you carve a groove in consciousness. At first it may feel foreign, unnatural, even forced, but with persistence it becomes familiar, and what is familiar to the mind is accepted as fact. The outer world then shifts to mirror this acceptance, for reality is nothing more than the hardened shadow of inner assumption. The process is inevitable once the assumption becomes natural, and the only task required of you is to persist until that point. Many people fail not because their imagination is weak, but because their persistence is short-lived. They imagine abundance but return to thoughts of lack. When the bills arrive, they imagine love but collapse into loneliness when the phone is silent. They imagine health but surrender to doubt at the first symptom. In this way they oscillate between states, never persisting long enough in the desired assumption for it to take root. The outer world may take time to reflect the inner change, for appearances lag behind imagination, and in this interval persistence is essential. To give up when results are not immediate is to undo the work of creation, but to hold steady, to return again and again to the desired state, regardless of what the senses report, is to call forth the unseen into visibility. Persistence is not effortful strain, but quiet conviction. It is not a desperate grasping at an image, but a calm returning to it whenever the mind wanders. It is like training the soil to accept a new seed by continually planting it until the ground yields. Each imaginal act, Each return to the state of the wish fulfilled is another layer of impression, another reinforcement of the blueprint that must manifest. Over time, the state no longer feels like pretending. It feels like home. And when it feels natural, when it feels like the obvious truth of your being, manifestation is inevitable. Think of the way a child learns a new word. At first it is strange, awkward to pronounce, easily forgotten. But through repetition the word becomes familiar, comfortable, second nature. So too with assumption. At first the feeling of wealth may seem unnatural to one who has long dwelt in lack. Or the feeling of love may seem foreign to one accustomed to loneliness. But through persistence the new state becomes natural. And what is natural to the mind must eventually appear in the world. Persistence also requires discipline in the face of appearances. The world may present you with evidence to the contrary, but the persistent one does not allow the outer to dictate the inner. Instead, he sees appearances for what they are, reflections of past states, powerless in themselves, and returns inwardly to the assumption of the fulfilled wish. Each return strengthens the state until no contradiction can shake it. The outer must eventually conform, for the inner cause has been impressed beyond question. To persist in assumption is to live in the end repeatedly. Each time you imagine yourself already in possession of your desire, you are rehearsing the scene of its fulfillment. With each rehearsal, the performance becomes more natural, more believable, until belief itself dissolves into knowing. At this point, you no longer wonder if it will happen. You rest in the certainty that it has already happened within, and the without is simply catching up. This persistence is not confined to a set time of day, but can be practiced continually. Whenever the mind drifts toward doubt, gently return it to the state of the wish fulfilled. When fear arises, use it as a cue to re-enter the inner scene of accomplishment. When impatience tempts you to seek outward signs, remind yourself that the seed is already planted, and persistence is the watering that ensures its growth. Each return, no matter how small, contributes to the solidity of the state. The great secret is that you need not know when or how the manifestation will appear. The path is not your concern. Your only work is persistence in assumption, for the subconscious and the universe arrange the details once the state is impressed. To obsess over means and timing is to weaken the state with doubt, but to persist in the end, calmly and consistently, is to allow creation to unfold in perfect order. In time you will discover that persistence transforms not only circumstances but identity. You become the state you assume. Persist in abundance, and you will see abundance in all things. Persist in love, and you will radiate love effortlessly. Persist in health and vitality becomes your natural expression. Assumption persisted in reshapes the very sense of self, and when the self is transformed, the world must follow. Therefore, persistence in assumption is the bridge between imagination and manifestation, the steady flame that keeps the vision alive until it becomes the lived reality. By returning again and again to the chosen state, by dwelling in it until it feels like the most natural thing in the world, you ensure its expression in form, for nothing can resist the power of an assumption that has been persisted in until it has become the truth of your being. Thankful acceptance is the final seal upon desire, the quiet recognition that what has been imagined is already yours in the unseen, and therefore cannot fail to appear in the seen. Gratitude before sleep anchors the wish not as a hope or a possibility, but as an accomplished fact, a reality so certain that the heart rests in it with ease. To give thanks in advance is to acknowledge receipt, to claim ownership in consciousness, and in doing so you draw the unseen into form. For the subconscious accepts thanksgiving as proof that the desire has already been fulfilled. When most people think of gratitude, they confine it to what their senses confirm. They are thankful only for what has already manifested, limiting gratitude to effects and forgetting that the cause is always inner. Yet true creative gratitude is not backward, looking but forward, anchored. It is not conditional upon appearances, but unconditional in assumption. To be thankful before the evidence shows itself is to demonstrate faith in the unseen law, for only the one who knows he has already received can give thanks for it. Gratitude, then, is not a mere emotion, but an act of possession, an inner declaration that the desire is already fact. As you prepare for sleep, you enter the sacred interval where the conscious mind yields and the subconscious stands receptive. Whatever impression you carry into this state is multiplied and expressed. If you enter with anxiety, the subconscious magnifies it. If you enter with lack, it weaves circumstances to match. But if you enter with gratitude, not for what you long for, but for what you already possess in imagination, then the subconscious accepts that desire has accomplished and works tirelessly to bring it forth. Gratitude is the language of completion, the vibration of already having, and when it is spoken sincerely in the silence of the night, creation responds. To practice thankful acceptance is simple yet profound. Choose the desire you wish to impress upon the mind, then in imagination assume its fulfillment. See yourself already in possession of the thing, already living in the condition, already being the person you desire to be. Let the scene play until the feeling of reality arises, and then clothe that feeling in gratitude. Whisper inwardly, thank you, not to some external source, but as the natural outflow of having received. Feel the relief, the joy, the calm assurance of completion. As you sink into sleep, let this gratitude be the final note, the mood in which you cross the threshold. Gratitude in this sense is not forced or mechanical. It is not repeating words without conviction. It is the spontaneous thankfulness that arises when something is truly yours. Imagine a gift placed in your hand. The natural response is to say thank you, because possession is undeniable. So it is with the imaginal act. When you truly feel the wish fulfilled, gratitude comes as naturally as breathing. If the feeling does not arise at once, persist until it does, for only when the assumption feels real enough to evoke thankfulness has it been impressed deeply. This thankful acceptance does more than create external change. It reshapes the self. Gratitude shifts the mind from longing to fulfillment, from lack to abundance, from struggle to rest. It dissolves doubt, because one cannot simultaneously doubt and give thanks for the same thing. In the state of gratitude, the question of when or how loses its urgency, for the desire is already secured within. The subconscious, receiving this state as fact, moves in perfect order to externalize it, often in ways the conscious mind could not have planned. The power of gratitude before sleep lies in its finality. The last impression before slumber is the one most deeply imprinted, for the conscious resistance has dissolved and the subconscious is wide open. A day filled with doubts and contradictions can be redeemed by a night of thankful assumption, for the subconscious does not keep score of hours, but responds to the final dominant mood. If you fall asleep in the spirit of gratitude for your fulfilled wish, that impression is carried into the depths and works itself out with creative fidelity. Imagine desiring wealth and falling asleep, not with thoughts of bills, and lack, but with gratitude for financial freedom already secured. The subconscious accepts this gratitude as proof of possession and sets into motion events that align with abundance. Imagine desiring love and falling asleep not with loneliness, but with gratitude for the companionship already present in your inner world. The subconscious takes that thanksgiving as evidence and orchestrates relationships to match. Imagine desiring health and falling asleep not with worry about symptoms, but with gratitude for the vitality already claimed in imagination. The subconscious accepts this as fact and stimulates the body toward wholeness. The outer world has no choice but to conform, for it is only the echo of inner states. Gratitude is the sound of fulfillment, the tone of already having, and the echo must return in kind. By practicing thankful acceptance nightly, you shift from the endless striving of desire to the restful certainty of possession. You no longer chase after results, but rest in the knowledge that they are inevitable, for they already exist within. To anchor desire in gratitude is to fix it in place so firmly that no appearance can shake it. Gratitude closes the gap between imagination and manifestation. It bridges the seeming distance between desire and fulfillment by erasing the sense of absence. What you are thankful for cannot be absent, for gratitude itself testifies to its presence. This is the great secret. Gratitude is not the result of manifestation, but the cause of it. To be thankful before you see is to create the seeing. Therefore, as you end each day, let your final act be one of thankful acceptance. Enter sleep not as one who hopes, but as one who knows, not as one who begs, but as one who has received. In this state, the subconscious writes the script of your life with the ink of gratitude, and life in turn delivers scene after scene that matches the certainty of your inner thanksgiving. So I say to you, tonight and every night, dare to live in the end before your eyes close. Dare to inhabit the joy of your fulfilled desire. Sleep not as you are, but as you wish to be. For the universe always answers, and it answers according to the state in which you rest.